Awesome. And just as a reminder, the recordings, the slideshows, and the agendas go up on our shared Google Drive, so you can watch them later if you want to review or if you missed a meeting. So our steering committee is listed here. We won't go through everyone. There's a couple folks who are not able to make it today. So hopefully we'll be able to connect with them and fill them in on any updates. But everybody's been able to pretty much attend at least a couple of meetings throughout the year. We started this back in the fall. And as we'll talk about, this specific steering committee is going to be ending for the fiscal year, and we're going to be transitioning into a new format. Okay, won't let me announce. Oh, there we go. So we wanted to start today with a recap of two of the outreach programs that, well, really three, that have happened since our last meeting. The biggest one being the Give a Hoot About the Park event on Saturday, May 9th. This was a huge success. I want to thank everybody who was able to come out. We had 16 community groups tabling. The list is there on the screen. It was a really great showing, and we really appreciate everybody who took the time to set up a table, set up an activity, engage with the community. This was a really important part. So this is all under the MVP grant, and it's really important for the grant to engage the community and the stewardship happening at the park and in services that all of these different groups are providing to the community. So the owls, which we'll talk about, are a great way to get people to come out and engage with learning about nature and habitat protection, but the community groups are just as important for the work that we're trying to do here. So this was a really nice turnout. It was more than when we did the event in 2024. And we had some nice weather. We had a break in the rain for most of the day. So it was a blessing, really, because it was supposed to be a total washout. But everybody had their tents and was ready for the rain and showed up anyway. Nobody didn't show up because of the rain. So I really appreciate that. We had our 2 live owl shows with Eyes on Owls. These are Mark and Marcia Wilson. They're a couple that take care of these owls in their home, and this is kind of their whole life. And they do these traveling shows and bring their birds out to educate the public about the owls themselves and about the habitats that the owls rely on and how we can be better environmental stewards. It's really great, obviously, for the kids, but I think potentially even equally, if not more entertaining for the
I
adults.
loved it.
Yeah, it was really, really great. And I actually got to watch a whole show this time. Usually I'm like running around, but I got to listen to what they were saying, which was really nice. We used the gazebo at the park to kind of stage all the owls, and we thought that worked really well with the staging area. And I think there were 6 or 7 different owls that they had. 2 shows, both were super packed. You can kind of see in some of the pictures here how packed they were, but everybody was here for it. And the number, we estimate at least 300. We gave away 300 lunches. Thank you to Signature Kitchen. Again, this is all grant funded by the MVP grant, so we were able to use the funding from MVP to pay for the catering and make the food free for the public, which is a really great option for folks. And then we also had cookies from Montilio's. So at least 300 people were there eating, if not more. And countless smiling faces in both the rain and shine. We saw some returning folks from 2024 that I recognized, and a lot of new faces as well, which was really great. Thank you, Tim, for the use of the park. Thank you to Patrick for the Friends help with tents and chairs and tables and the Adirondack chairs, which are so perfect, and everything that you guys did. Does anybody want to comment on the event before we move on to public meetings?
It was great.
Thank you.
We had 90 people stop by the Fuller table.
Oh, yeah, you guys had a clicker.
Yeah, so that was great.
Awesome.
We were very pleased.
That's awesome.
My daughter still has the bugs that she made at the table.
was okay.
She loves them. All right.
As I say, this presentation is actually sponsored by Jazzy and Nico, in case anybody's curious.
My daughter was there. She loved it. She's been obsessed with owls ever since.
Yeah, we got about 20 new members.
Oh,
That was
great.
good.
Oh,
That's awesome.
So we're pretty happy with that, yeah.
Awesome. Good. Anybody on Zoom?
I was unable to attend, but I really liked it the first time a couple years ago. So looks like it was a great success. So congratulations, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great event. Very well attended.
So we hope to do it again next spring. We'll start talking to the Wilsons about that pretty soon. We're going to take the summer to figure out how we can fund that with the park and the SWIG grants. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but we do hope to at least do this one more time and then continue to do the event as grant funding is available. So
Yeah, it was a great event. I love that you all are thinking long term about it too. So,
thank you.
love it.
Great way to build community stewardship, Rachel. These types of events, so that's beautiful. And it's great that you got such great response and great reactions.
Thank you, Bill. All right, so aside from the big event, the Fuss and O'Neill was at the event collecting public feedback, and in addition to that, we did 2 public meetings. So that's what we're going to talk about next. Before the event on Thursday, April 30th, thank you Fuller Craft Museum for hosting. We had our in-person public meeting. I had about 40 to 45 folks on the sign-in sheet, but I think at one point we counted 50 and some people didn't sign in despite my begging them to. So it was a really good turnout. The room was full, and for in person, I think that's like really inspiring. We usually have more people attend on virtual for convenience, but we actually had more people for the in-person. So yeah, like I said, packed room. Scott from Fuss and O'Neill presented a lot of what this committee has already seen. We got feedback in the form of open discussion, which we've provided the notes to Fuss and O'Neill, and we also got comment cards that people could write notes and they turn those in as well. So 2 different ways people could provide feedback. And then similarly, we did the same presentation again virtually on May 13th on Zoom. We had around 20 people, and we had another good discussion where people were both coming off of mute and asking questions and also typing questions into the chat. So we have all of that documented and submitted to Fuss and O'Neill. And like I said, they also collected input at the park. So there's been a good amount of outreach going into this process, and we're wrapping up. The fiscal year ends on June 30th. So I thought I'd embarrass Scott a little bit by pulling this photo from your LinkedIn of you receiving a very prestigious award recently.
That's great. Congratulations. Thank you.
And now we'll turn it over to Scott. Yeah, 10:15. Perfect. So
Okay,
let you switch.
so I'm gonna talk for a little bit.
Okay.
We have copies of the plans where they stand now, but I just want to talk about a few things because we're getting to an important time in the project. We're approaching the end of the grant, so we have deliverables that are due. While we're approaching into the MVP grant, the park grant we're still working towards, or we're still involved with, because that's a little bit different. So the Tower Hill parking lot, Tim, you're gonna get plans today that could be bid. So I have not been as involved with the Tower Hill parking lot design since that is being led by our landscape group. However, I am involved because there's coordination between the two, and the overall filing is the MIPA filing has to include both projects. So you've been in touch with either Nina and or Andy, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Yes. So, I talked with them yesterday about that, and everything, as far as I can tell, is on track for that. We do have a permitting plans and MIPA submittal that we are shooting for June 15th. And I just want to talk a little bit about that. So we said before that these are permitting level plans. And that MIPA is a process. So as we go through the design and the filing, we identify things that we think will be coming up in terms of comments. And I talked with Rachel for, I don't know, a while, probably half an hour yesterday about this. So I just want to kind of let you know what I see that we will probably get in terms of comments. And the reason I want you to know that is because I don't want, when we get comments from state agencies, I don't want you to think that it's a problem. It's more of the process, okay? And these are things that we are aware of that we will have to work through the MIPA process. We do have a lot of resource areas on the project. So we have floodplain. We have floodplain that has been studied and has elevation, and then we have parts of the vast majority of the park does not have elevation, which is problematic from a design perspective. Typically, when you design, you want to make sure that you're not filling floodplain. However, if you don't have an elevation for that, it's hard to do, because what ends up happening is you get a line that you get off the internet, or you get off the state's GIS, and it crosses all over the contours. We understand that. We have somebody who's going to put together a study, which is a little bit out of scope, but we're going to do it anyways. And to determine what those flood elevations are. We actually have somebody who's from FEMA who just started, who's going to be working on that. So I expect a comment there. Because of the nature of the project, both the town and the city have buffer zones related to wetland setbacks. Both of them have 25-foot no disturb zones, and from a regulatory perspective, anything within 100 feet you need to file for. We are inside 100 feet almost everywhere, and we are inside 25 feet in a lot of places. And that's because that's where the parkway is now. Like, one of the things that we realized as we were doing this is that the parkway forms a barrier between the upland areas that flow into the reservoir. And there are a lot of low spots that are around, I guess, outside the parkway, in the if Waldo Lake and the reservoir and Porter's Pond are inside, then these low areas are outside. And I think that when the parkway was built, it basically blocked all those areas off. So the strategy that we're using is using those low spots and sort of reestablishing them to come back in. But the parkway has been built very, very close to a lot of the wetland resources, especially close to the reservoir. So, when we do our filings, we have to explain, we're going to get comments from MIPA, we're going to get comments from conservation commissions about that. There's no other way around it without, like, basically just relocating the parkway, which should result in more disturbance. So we expect that is going to be a comment. At the same time, especially near the reservoir, the elevation of the road is very close to the water level and very close to the wetlands level. So in terms of stormwater management, we're improving it over what's there, but we're not necessarily meeting the regulations. So that's going to be a comment that we're going to get, that, like, the design does not meet all the stormwater regulations. It can't, without substantial moves or substantial, like, relocation of the parkway. So just just be aware of that type of stuff. We are knocking down trees. We have to do that. We expect that that's going to be a comment. One of the things that we've talked about a number of times is that this project is really about trade-offs. Like, if we weren't providing a shared use path, then our limit of disturbance would be less, and we wouldn't have to knock down trees. You know what I mean? So,
Kyle wanted to respond to something you said.
okay.
Oh, yeah, I've just got a question. So we're talking about through this permitting process. I know I met with Tim a few months ago and some people from FNO about trying to pull the Tower Hill parking lot area
Yes.
out of the 100-foot buffer. Was that successful, or are you anticipating filing with the Conservation Commission for that Tower Hill parking lot?
No, we pulled it out.
Okay, great. Just wonderful.
So
Thanks.
there are areas that are paved now that are within 100 feet that presumably will be restored. So
Yeah,
you
and
can probably call that work and, work within the buffer zone, but it's an improvement. you know?
Right. And I think and we spoke about this, at that meeting a month or so ago. I think converting existing pavement to impervious within that 100-foot buffer does not require any sort of filing. So I think
Mhm.
we're all set there. But I can circle back to that and look into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so on the Brockton side, we actually have an overall reduction in impervious surface. On the Avon side, we have an increase. I think we have a reduction of an acre on the Brockton side and an increase of an acre and a half on the Avon side. And that is that's just the way it is. So it's only a net increase on the project of half an acre. And honestly, like a big part of that is the parking area that we're proposing off of Old Pond Street. You know what I mean? So that's a new area. It's another 18 parking spaces. So that accounts for that. And some of the areas that are informal where informal parking happens, like near the tower, we're actually going to pave it so that it's better for people to use. But these are things that, again, like my concern, and I said this to Rachel yesterday, is that overall, everything's better. This project will result in improvements all around. It will result in improvements in water quality, groundwater infiltration, discharges to, the ponds and lakes and reservoirs, safer pedestrian and bicycle accommodations. It's just that when you send these things and you get specific people who are focused on specific things, that they may want to see tweaks or changes or may not be looking at the project holistically. So I'll give you an example. Old Pond Street is built within a floodway. So we have to be very, very careful about how we redesign that. Basically, we're keeping the grades the same elevation that they are. I know that the road has just been repaved. We're putting stormwater structures in, but that will be an area that will probably receive a lot of attention. Like I said, the floodplain, which we're continuing to work on, will be a question. And so, these are just things that will come up. One of the items that has come up, and Tim, you and I talked about this, is that the Tower Hill parking lot, because it's part of the project that we're being filed with MIPA, the construction of that is hopefully going to occur before we're through the MIPA process. So we have to apply for a phase one waiver. Okay, and I have a call at 2:30 today with a woman from MIPA about that, to explain to her like exactly why we need to apply for that waiver. I know this is a lot of like technical, either design or permitting stuff, but I just want you guys to understand, because I don't want you to get concerned that like when we get a certificate back and it's like, okay, we need to address this, this, and this, or there are comments about these things. These are not things that are unexpected or unusual for a project, especially a project of this size. And again, like the tree thing, I mean, it's a resilience grant. Obviously, you don't really want to take down trees, but you have to take down some. If you're widening the parkway and you're building some stormwater basins to improve water quality, then you got to take down some trees. And so those are all things that we'll address in the next phase of MIPA. So that being said, we still have some work to do on the design and the plans. I have a set of plans here. They're 100 pages. Actually, I think they're 96 pages as of right now. They have a lot of really technical information in them, like a lot of grading and a lot of stormwater structures and rims and inverts and pipes and those types of things. That, if we want to go through them, we can. They are a work in process. They're a work in progress. I mean, we printed them yesterday. They are different today than they were yesterday because we have people working on them. The only real question I have, which is kind of an interesting question, is like right now in the park, there are no guardrails and there are no fences.
Mhm.
But we have like steep slopes off the side of the road and in close proximity to the shared use path.
Like some guardrails.
Where,
And definitely in the Avon side, there's like cement
Around the
wire.
reservoir, there used to be
Yeah.
guardrails. They've all kind of deteriorated. There
yeah,
used to be a lot more, yeah.
Yeah, that's
so,
limited. Yeah, I've seen some.
so I mean, typically if you have like a 3-to-1 slope, against near a road, you would put a guardrail in, and we have that in a lot of places. And we also have the shared use path in some areas, because in the areas that we're cutting, like between wetlands. Again, the road was probably built through wetlands when they built it. So like you have wetlands on both sides. Typically you put protection on either side. I don't want to go through and put like guardrails and fences all over the place, because it's going to affect the the feel of the park.
Aesthetic, yeah.
But it's something that I just want to bring up.
No, I agree. I think that's a good idea. I think you can design a guardrail that's not highway guardrail, but
Maybe would.
more park wise. And there's some really great examples in the New York system has a great guardrail system that you're talking about in Dumbo down in Brooklyn. I can show you pictures of that stuff. It's not just, just a fence, it's a really guardrail. That's wood, wire. So
Yeah,
yeah.
they're actually still there.
Yeah, they are there. They
Yeah,
are there.
I don't know how much of the
Little
park
sections
is
here
there.
and there.
It used to be throughout, but just
Really,
to
yeah.
touch base on what you're saying about the wetlands and stuff is, from my knowledge of the history of the park, is the reservoir was always kind of there, but lower upper Port Ponds, Walter Lakes, 30 acres, all that was just a stream. It was farmland.
Right,
So
there were dams.
a lot of that wetlands that's been there now, I think
Yeah.
has probably been created over time because of the design of the park, and just after time, it becomes a wetland.
Well, there are some areas. So like there's an area near the triangular area near Old Pond Street and the Parkway, where there's no question, like the road, and there's a small pipe that goes underneath the road that I guess it overtops. I guess the road overtops when you get a lot of rain, but there's no doubt in my mind that was wetland before, and the road has probably created more wetland.
Well, that's
on either
part of
side
the,
of
that
it.
was part of the reservoir area. Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
probably already there. You
Right.
mentioned Old Pond Street as if we have to redo that, but didn't Avon just redo that?
Right, they
Weren't they-
repaved it, but there's no there's
There's no
what's there
stormwater
now.
stuff?
No, there's just paved waterways like there was before that goes
Right.
into the pond. So the point of the project is to provide more water quality protection.
Yeah,
And so that's what, we're not proposing to change the elevations, we're proposing to, in that area, because it's so constrained, we actually don't have a shared use path there. It's gonna be basically the same, except you're gonna have some catch basins and then the stormwater pond on the south side of it. But again, these are all things that, like, we're continuing to work towards. It's a permitting set of plans, it's not a final set of plans, they will change. I know there's been discussion about, reviewing plans prior to this filing. What I would probably prefer to do is file it and then take a look at it. And then we can change it as we're in the process, because things always change. Because I don't think we have time to go through like 96 sheets of plans, right?
And then sort of when you started talking about the guardrails, the first area that sort of sprang to my mind, because I've pulled more than one piece of machinery out of there, is at the end of Waldo Lake, where the road takes the big turn towards the waterfall. Because of
Yeah.
the way the road is sloped right there in the wintertime, we've lost plow trucks
On
into
the right side? Or the-
Right, so you
Yeah.
are coming from South Street, heading
Yeah.
south,
and it slopes
Yeah.
towards the water.
slopes towards the water there.
The left side was always
Correct.
open. The right side, there used to be, I think.
There's a big dip
Yeah.
there.
Well,
So
it's a big dip everywhere, to be honest with you. I mean, the road kind of
That's
fits
just
up a little bit.
one area that just sort of popped right into my
Yeah.
head, like, geez, that might save me from having a stuck piece of equipment and a stuck tow truck and another tow truck pulling that tow truck out.
Yeah, what it does though, is it kind of like, it sort of isolates,
Feels like it narrows the road.
which is fine which is good actually from like a speed perspective. But it also is like a barrier between the parkway and the rest of the road. So
Yeah.
like, there are areas where you could have I mean, on a for a shared use path, what they want you to put, what Mass DOT wants you to put is a fence, so what I would suggest is like a black, like a a black vinyl coated chain link fence, not too high, but on some of those areas where it is very, very close, that way it kind of blends in, but it provides some safety
Between the path and the water or between the path and the road?
between the path and the water.
So to
Not
keep,
everywhere.
to keep people from falling.
Yeah, you don't want people to be riding a bike and then fall off.
Are you saying that's a requirement in this grant process?
It's not a requirement in the grant, it's just good design, and honestly, it's like a liability thing, like if you design the road and then somebody falls off the edge of the,
A lot of
Path.
rock crash on too.
I agree with you there too, but also I think in my experience, courts have found that reasonable people know there's reasonable danger in the public place. And if you design something to have somewhat safety to it already, knowing that, hey, if I go off the road, I might fall into a pond, that's, I don't know many people in
Oh, we
my
don't wanna
the history of me and my family and anyone I know using the park, having their bicycle go off the road into the pond and that being a danger.
well, we don't want to be in court. I tend to agree with you that you
I
probably win in
agree.
court, but you don't want to get there.
We can go to court, but you know what? We can go to court and the courts will find, hey, you know what? You fell off the bike. Why? You were going too fast. You weren't paying attention. It's not a liability.
Yeah, I mean,
It really
there
isn't.
there is a Mass DOT does have guidance about these types of things. You know what I mean? And again, it's a gray area because it's not a public road. Even though it's owned by the city of Brockton, it is, but it's not open to the public 24/7. So it's viewed differently. It's not private, but it sort of is private because you control
It's
when
a
people can get
public
in.
road. It's a public road. It's owned by the city of Brockton. It's a public road. We can close it down when we want, but it's a public road.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I guess I was more thinking of the guardrail issue to keep vehicles out of ponds. I think I may tend to agree that a fence along the waterway or the pedestrian side, the shared use path, doesn't,
it,
I understand that it's a suggested guideline, but I don't know that I'm in favor of.
I agree.
Yeah.
But in this situation, I don't know if it really works because that's not the type of thing that's happening here
yeah,
where it's like really dangerous to the point where like, I think a city would be liable for having a path right next to a dangerous waterway. And I don't see that happening.
it's not even a waterway. Sometimes
Exactly, it's a pond.
sometimes it's just a slope.
Or a slope. It's not.
Like as you're going up to the tower, you're gonna have the road on the right. Right now, that road sits up pretty high. It falls off pretty steep on either side. It's gonna continue to do that. We haven't had it before. Again, I just want to
Right. So an
Bring it up.
area like that on the pedestrian side, let's say where we would have to fill in some of that slope, right, to
Yeah.
expand the road. On the pedestrian side, maybe having a wooden guardrail there might look better than maybe a chain link fence. I know it's more expensive. However, we're gonna have to struggle to find
Yeah.
funding anyways.
There'll probably be some areas where we have to do it and some areas where we can get away without it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
typically we have a 3-to-1 slope, you put a guardrail. In some areas we have.
I just
Okay.
want to give people online
Oh,
a
yeah,
second to chime in. So Yolando said that he likes that compromise with the possible for wood guardrail. Kyle, I know you've been waiting a while. I don't know if we've gone so far down a wormhole that it's not related, but please.
Yeah, we can circle back to my comment. I have more questions about the permitting, so we can continue this conversation and
Okay.
come back to me later. Thanks.
Great. Elijah, thank you. Never mind, already hopped off. I was thank you for joining.
I was wondering if it makes sense to wait and see on some of the fencing. I mean, it's something that could be added later, right?
It can be.
If
Yeah.
there's,
Yeah, I mean-
not to say like, wait to see if someone gets hurt, but like,
No,
if there's an incident, or if it becomes obvious that there is a great likelihood that there would be an incident, then the fence can be added, or some kind of guardrail can be added at a later time.
You could do that. if you have a contractor and they're installing everything, it's probably cheaper that they're doing it now.
Yeah,
But like you could wait.
unlike some of the areas that maybe.
I mean, I think we are all cognizant of the fact that should we get the next round of MVP funding to get these to construction level documents and then seek funding to actually do the construction, it is probably going to be a phased
Right.
project.
Yeah.
I don't imagine getting the $30 million to do the whole thing all at once.
Yeah.
So if it means that there's a slight modification to the plans, let's say we're doing the Tower Hill area and there's a guardrail for a section of that, then it's added into the plans
Yeah.
during the construction phase. I think that's so that it would be maybe in this spot, but definitely not in that spot. You know what I mean? I think.
Yeah, we can go through it.
Yeah.
I will just add like a note about it on the
Right.
plans so that somebody knows that we're aware of it.
Yep.
And, but I'm not gonna show anything, like, I'm not gonna draw it. I mean, like, to be honest with you, so, like, thinking about this, as you're driving up the Parkway off of Oak Street, you know, you've got, the pond on the left. And, you know, there's where people walk now, you can see it, you can see the bare area, so we're putting a path there. Like, that's one of the areas we're putting a path, but like, you'll have a steep slope down to the water. Like, to me, to put a fence there stinks,
Yeah.
Right.
but it's also like,
The entranceway,
as you're
Okay.
as you're driving, as you drive by the parking lot, you get to
The
the
two-way.
upper Porter's Pond, the two-way area.
Right.
We're having the shared use path
yeah,
where people walk now,
right.
but you have to widen it a little bit, and it's already steep there,
But here you're saying.
like right in
Yeah.
here, right along here.
Right, so just, I agree with you, just when you say the word steep, I'm thinking something much larger than what I visually know as that is to be steep.
It's gonna be a little steeper.
So you're saying that's steep in the definition of what we talk about
Well,
as
if you
steep?
think it will be steeper than what it is.
Steeper than
now,
what it is now.
It
Yeah,
is now.
Oh, I
yeah.
see, okay.
and it would trigger for Mass Dot, it would hit that standard.
And the steepness is just because we're adding grade to create this path.
We're widening it
Yeah.
to create the path, so when you when you drop. So if this is the way, like, say this is the pond, right?
Yeah.
And you come up to here, and then you've got the road, right?
Yeah.
And, or maybe
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like this,
I get you, yeah, that's what it
but
is.
if you
yeah.
widen it,
You get a
to
bigger
say
steep,
here.
you're getting steeper now, I
It
guess you're
gets
saying,
steeper.
you're creating it steeper now, I guess,
That's
I see what you're saying, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, there you'd have to maybe do some type of thing, a small thing, plantings or a small, that I understand, but and this is the pond you're saying?
yeah,
Oh, I see.
so when you widen
Oh,
it,
hold on, see, I thought that was the pond there.
this is the pond here, this is
But
the.
there's already some low level land right here, so we're getting rid of that completely?
No, you just have to widen it to like, in order to,
So the pond is right here now. Starts there,
This is the
water
edge of the-
starts here.
yes.
So before, because right now it's like this, there is actually a path there that's under the grade, it's asphalt.
Right,
And then it kind of goes up the road like that.
yeah,
So you're saying you're creating it all the way over to the water, steep thing to the
well,
water.
not all the way to the water, we're just bringing it out from the edge of the road.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I mean, but
But there's other areas throughout that will be steeper than that.
of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah,
yeah,
and all
walking,
of that would
going up the
trigger
tower on the
typical
right
Mass
side, it's
Dot.
very steep,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah,
I
very
Yeah.
think we
steep.
pause and give folks
Yeah.
online a chance to respond. Ulysses, you've been waiting.
Thanks for describing that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Wanted to provide a comment regarding we're just talking about the guardrail. I just listening. For me, I always go back to that original vision of the park, and that experience that was intended for users. So, I wouldn't want to see any highway guardrail styles, if at all possible. Just like the parks, the children's play area that we're talking about. It wouldn't be traditional play equipment, but more along the lines of nature-based equipment. So, with that being said, wood guardrails. I don't think they need to be everywhere. I think about, a park for everybody, including nature and creatures. Like, I don't want to see, us stop the way of life for not just, the people that are going to frequent the park, but the animals that frequent the park. So putting chain link fences and stuff like that sort should only be used at a very minimal, around the park. And then, what I'm hearing from everybody too is, we all have a certain level of what is risk, what's the size of the slope, which is legitimate. But going back to my point, guardrails shouldn't be everywhere. So we need to have some type of scale where we can say to ourselves, like, I think the phrase you used, Rachel, was potentially high risk. So what are the measurements that equate to something being high risk? And we're going to get a lot from that from Tim and from users. So this listening period that hopefully that we're still in is very crucial, so we can kind of see what that scale is. And like I said, I just don't want to see guardrails everywhere, but those areas that are of very, very high risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so again.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, we would never put like a steel guardrail in. That's not anything we're considering or even thinking about. Anything that we would put in would be timber. Typically, if you have a slope, like Mass DOT will tell you, and again, this isn't a Mass DOT road, it's a park. If you had a 3-to-1 slope, they would want to see something like that. So, and we have a lot of areas that exist there now and areas that are going to be created. So we will have more discussion about this item. I just wanted to bring it up, that's all. So, and I don't want to bog down the meeting with it either, so.
Bill, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I was just thinking, going back to the beginning when you were talking about your MEPA filing, I think this is where you're going to pick up a lot of this information. It's really key because they're going to be looking for impacts to public and environmental health and safety and no net detrimental impacts to the environment overall. So these are the types of things that they'll mention in this type of thing to help Fuss and O'Neill come up with a final scope of work to really refine the engineering plans. And it also allows you, I think, Scott, as the engineer, to come in and start really looking at alternatives that are practical and practicable. And it's some of the things you're just talking about right now about public safety. It could be a combination of signage, guardrail, could be like the wooden guardrail, could be shrubbery in certain places, which would help you pick up some environmental and green points as far as stormwater uptake. But the overall impact would be to improve public and environmental health and safety. And it also allows you to go back and look based on the comments that you get, because Mass DOT will be commenting, Mass DEP, a whole bunch of people, to see what you have for areas that you can use as compensatory offsets and how you can do it. Again, what is the most practical way to do things? So it'll really help. And all of these ideas, the things that you're kicking up today, are probably some of the things that are going to come up in comments from the public and agencies. So this is all very constructive. But like I say, it's not, not a final menu. We don't have to worry about the final look right now. The MEPA filing will give us all, especially the engineers, a chance to really look at what we have and what we have to work with to make sure we can get as close to being, non-impactful as possible. But Scott said something too about retaining the feel of the park and people's perception of the park. It's still a public park. I love that comment. It's a public park, public way. So you want people to feel good about it and feel the same about it. It's kind of a home type of thing.
Yeah.
And Kyle is back. Do we want to pivot to permitting?
I have a question.
Oh,
I have a question, but no, go like Kyle.
and is it related to this though?
Something like this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You know how you're bringing up like the vinyl fencing and whatever? I don't find those attractive, but
It's chain link. That's
yeah.
correct.
Oh, no. I know exactly what you're
Yeah.
referring to. I mean, All right, but that's not the real, the question here. And Bill highlighted the opportunity for environmental points. Do you see now in places, a structure or whatever, and I remember the first things that came out was the playgrounds with the rubbery. We've used all these tires instead of them going into a landfill. I'm coming off a little ignorant here. Is there any opportunity like that where we can use recycled material to be a fence or to be, I don't know, a protection, or something of that nature that gives us not only more points, but, saves the environment more closely? I'm just,
Yeah,
I think when it comes time to finalize the final design of any type of fencing, we can put those things on the table, do the research and say,
Yeah.
hey, what are these here? Are they recyclable stuff?
do you come?
And then yeah, right.
yeah, typically there's a cost associated with those things, but that's fine. I mean, we will have them recycle the asphalt, you know what I mean? They'll come in and recycle the asphalt that's there and grind it up and reuse it, but
It's cool.
yeah.
That's what I'd like to know.
What's that?
Short stone walls. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna dig up a lot of stones. There's stones everywhere around there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd be amazed at what stone walls cost,
Yeah.
actually.
Can I put on the table once again, there is a plethora, and you guys should, I'll take you there. There's a plethora of cobblestone and curbstone granite pushed way into the park past the parking lot where we had our centennial celebration.
Yeah.
Tons of it, all those mounds, and this is way before Mr. Carpenter's time, way before your time. This is back in the 80s this happened. It's in there. There's lots of it. It'll take time to get out of it.
Yeah.
But you've got a lot of stuff in there that could be used for this kind of stuff. And the older the granite is, the more expensive it usually is.
Okay.
Just so you know, just put on the table. So I know it's a lot of
Yeah.
effort to go in there and stuff, and we talk about recycling, doing things. You go in there and it's an environmental hazard there's no question about it. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm surprised there aren't dead deer in there. I mean, just, it's like you could go in there. It's a movie set. It's like, wow. I don't have pictures right now, but yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what he's referring to, but I just, you're seeing this throughout. And this was made with blah, 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 or
Yeah.
somebody's trying this, especially the whole month of April with, thank God, Earth, Day, Earth Month. And they just show, we're using this instead of polluting that, and anyway, so that's why I wanted to throw it. Okay, sorry, Kyle. Yeah.
No,
Kyle, take-
all right, and yeah, no problem. I was just curious Scott, if you had a timeline for, you're going through MIPA permitting. Are you going to be submitting for Conservation Commission for the roadway at the same time, or what's your strategy for permitting with MIPA and Concom for the roadway?
So the permitting is with Concom, any local permitting is part of the second phase of the grant. So what happened was we wrote a proposal for the whole thing, for the whole project, including local permitting and construction drawings. And when we submitted it to MVP, basically they cut it in half, and they picked and they chose what was going to be part of the first phase that we're in now and what they would kick down the road. So if everything works out perfectly, we'll probably know about the second grant, say August, September, right? That's when you typically find out. And then hopefully, if that's the case, then we will have a filing in the fall.
Okay, great, thank you. I do have a comment about the fencing, just as I know we're kind of pivoting away from that, but you know, if fencing is added, after the Concom permitting process is completed, depending on the type of fencing that we ultimately decide upon, that may or may not be an issue. So if it's going to be like generally the threshold that Concom's looking at is if it's a fence that's going to impede wildlife movement, they need to weigh in on that. If it's going to be like a low, more, like what they have along the highway, where the crash barrier, something like that, where, a deer can jump over it or rabbits can go underneath it. That's much easier to kind of get like approval for. So just
Yeah.
as we move forward through that process and, assuming that the design will change after permitting with Conservation Commission, some things are a bigger ask for like after the fact approval than others. So we can, dive into that a little bit into more detail later, but I just wanted to bring that up for everyone's awareness today. Thanks.
No, so it's good because like, I expect Mass DOT to make comments like that. So like you saying that and the fact that we're having this meeting is great because it gives me a response. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, well, we talked to conservation or we talked to the state and this is what we heard and concerned about wildlife and that type of stuff. So it's good that we're having the conversation, which is why I brought it up.
Yolanda?
Uh, yeah, I appreciate this conversation. I just want to chime in on disturbance because I know that we're gonna have to have some disturbance of things. And I think the fencing might cause some disturbance, and that you were mentioning the asphalt that will be have to be torn up and stuff. One thing that I have flagged this to Kyle, and something that just to think about is Brockton does have an issue with invasive uh, plants and species here, and the more we do disturbance, it will like increase the spread of them. And DW Field Park doesn't have a huge problem, but it's not non-existent. So specifically, knotweed is an issue in Brockton, and it's spreading like wildfire. So I think that's something just to consider as we are moving things around. That's the main way that they spread, and once they get established, it gets very hard to remove them. So that's something I just wanted to flag.
Yeah, so the only trigger for MIPA is land disturbance. And so the number that we're at right now is 28 acres of land disturbance. However, the vast majority of that is areas that have already been disturbed. You know what I mean? It's probably, I would say probably 26 acres of it is the parkway that's there now. You know what I mean? So it's yeah, we're cognizant of that, but we also have to make sure that we meet, stormwater treatment requirements as best we can. So it's a balance, as I keep saying.
Yeah, dense plantings too, where we're putting in native
The
plants
native,
will help
yeah.
reduce
good,
the
yeah.
infiltration
Mhm.
of invasive or.
To take it from invasives to awesome species of plants, we do have lady slippers growing in the park.
I know,
Beautiful.
isn't it cool?
There's two spots that I know of, but one spot that you can see right now is going up the tower.
Yeah.
If you walk up the tower and you go further up, halfway up the tower, just past halfway up from where it splits to the tower, on the right side, there's an old dead pine tree stump. And behind that, there's about 9 or 10 I've counted. They're flowering right now. And it's right off almost where you've had that mark there. And so that's going to have to be a spot. So I think maybe 20 feet off the road, but it's down there. You can see them and they're flowering right now. Yeah. So it's really good. That's, we haven't, the association, we've decided not to like quarantine them off in case people are going to go and touch them. We just want to let them grow and see if they'll keep going. But we discovered them once we blew all those leaves out of there a couple of years ago. And so that's a really great spot that could grow into more and more of amazing species. And there's another spot too that I won't talk about.
Yeah, and I think that as we get through the process, the further you get into it and the further you get into producing construction drawings, that's when there are opportunities to say, okay, have notes on the plans and alert the contractor to protect these areas or, that type of stuff. So, but we're not to that level of detail.
Right, yeah,
yet,
just
so.
putting that on the table, because I know I've talked about it before, the 4 foot
Yep.
shoulder gravel, which is now increasing that where this area is. So
Yeah,
that might have to come into play or something, especially if that's really a spot for native species. Do we now think about what do we do with a roadway there, maybe? I don't know, just putting that on the table.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so we have 5 minutes, 6 minutes left. I
Wow.
don't want to keep people over. This has been great. We have to talk about what's coming up. So fiscal year 26 ends on June 30th of 2026, in a month and a day. So that is this MVP grant. It takes us through June 30th. The roadway designs will be permit ready. As Scott mentioned, the MIPA filing goal is June 15th.
Okay.
I think on the next slide, we have hold on June 16th for our last steering committee meeting for this MVP, right? Yeah, June 16th at 2
Oh, on a
p.m.
Tuesday instead.
Tuesday at 2. I know they've been a little all over the place, but it's been really hard to
That I believe.
get everybody together in their busy schedules. On July 1, fiscal year 27 starts. And that means that the focus for outreach will shift from MVP to park and SWIG. We'll also be waiting to hear about potentially the next round of MVP, as Scott mentioned. So we will be hearing about that in August or September. And that would be the next phase of this project. So there's a couple different things up in the air right now. Again, park is the focus of park is the Tower Hill parking lot, and that is also the funding for that is also for construction. And so what we would like to do is invite this steering committee to continue to stay on for future projects as we move into fiscal year 27. But what we would like to propose is after June 14th to take July and August off. And we will use that time to review the SWIG and park contracts and make a new outreach plan under those contracts, and then potentially a new outreach plan under the new MVP grant if we receive it. And then be back in touch in August with next steps.
So one question will be that we get from MIPA is that will outreach continue past this?
Yeah.
So I think Allison or April are gonna send you guys an email about that because we need some language in the document about that.
Okay, yeah, we can.
They asked me yesterday, it's like, I can't imagine they won't.
Never stops. The
Right.
fun never stops.
Yeah. So yeah, we have to, like I said, if MVP, if we get that, outreach is gonna look one way. If we don't get it, it's gonna look a different way. So we don't necessarily have to wait to hear about MVP just to do any outreach. We are gonna take the summer to form outreach plans for Parks and SWIG, which will work together. There could be an email update in the meantime, if anything happens with Park over the summer. But otherwise, we'll just be waiting to hear more. Ulysses?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was outreach multiple languages, right? That outreach would be, if there's materials, those surveys, there'd be in multiple languages.
So we are, for one of the MIPA requirements is, I can't remember the name of the document.
The fact
Um,
sheet.
The fact sheet.
The fact sheet.
Okay.
So that should be translated into Haitian Creole, Cape Verdean Creole, Portuguese, and Spanish as of Monday. I believe I should have that back.
And can we can put something on the city website as another avenue to gain some traffic.
Once we have an official MIPA date, then yes, we can put that MIPA date on the calendar.
It will also be on the DW Field Park website when it's filed, and the links to provide comment will all be up there, and we can send an email to the listserv as well.
Awesome. And then the last thing I'm not sure if if you all are going before City Hall anytime soon. I know when we had the DW Field initiative, you went to City Hall, but the one thing that I would love to see, and I think there was some mention in the report, was the advocacy for maintenance staff. I think that's the elephant in the room. We need all the support that we can get to ensure that department is fully staffed. And especially if we're going to invest so much into this park, which I think, again, is a beautiful, wonderful project for the city. And we're so fortunate to have, everyone involved and to have this park in the city. But I want this park to be there for future generations and not fall into disrepair. No knock at Tim, because you do the best with what you have. But we certainly need, everybody advocating for the parks. And, being properly staffed, I think, is a huge priority.
Yeah, for sure.
I had a comment or two. I don't seem to be able to raise my hand on this.
Oh, that's okay. Go for it.
So Scott said it'd be better to have feedback on the design as part of the MIPA process. Wouldn't that be in July, August, when you don't want to have any meetings? Or what am I missing?
Well, the MIPA filing process Yes, the meeting could be then. We're just suggesting not having a steering committee meeting when we're waiting on state dates, when that could be followed up with an email. About
Not
when,
waiting on what? I'm sorry.
waiting on dates back from the state for site visits.
Okay.
Those could be valuable moments where we could talk about designs and things and bring things to the table.
But we can't change anything during.
But
No,
this is for,
what the-
as you move on.
No, what happens is, so the way the process works is that you file and then there's the opportunity to receive comments. And so if I would encourage folks to write a letter in support of the project. And they will take all of the comments and they will consider them and they will include them in any kind of decision. And then part of the next filing will be responding to comments. If you get positive comments, you typically don't need to respond to them. Like if you all write letters and say, yeah, this is awesome, can't wait, then like you don't have to really respond, but there will be some comments that are probably like, we want you to. I don't know, I can't even, I mean, you get comments about a lot of different things. Again, most of the time, it's a special interest or people are interested in one specific aspect. Not necessarily thinking holistically about all of the improvements. So you do have to respond to the comments that you get.
Okay, but were you,
My thought is that it's useful
could
for
we
the
on the
group.
steering committee turn around and go to MIPA saying,
Yeah,
okay,
If you feel so inclined.
if you like, yeah, if you want, yeah.
No contact info?
can you?
When it's open.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
No.
have to wait to be assigned a person, correct?
yeah, I think the person that we talked with, and I cannot remember her name, is going to be our analyst.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And actually, like I said, I have a meeting today about the phase 1 waiver for Tower Hill. So she may be the same.
Okay.
She'll be the same person, but what will happen is you file it and it is published in this thing called the Environmental Monitor.
Okay.
And it will tell you, and I mean, once we get that, we'll get notification. Maybe you should just send it out to the steering committee. And then that's where you send comments to.
Okay, no, because I mean, I would ask others. I mean,
Yeah,
what
that's
did
what we'll
the
put up
officials-
on-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it won't be like a form on the DW Field website, it will be a link to.
Okay,
the
or DW
monitor.
Field.
Yeah, and if we could get like a letter from the city too, that would be different departments,
Yep.
that would be
Okay.
great.
Okay.
So in the scope of the MVP grant, the tasks, where are we at in the tasks?
So I can see you looking at our proposal. So like this was, so this is the first one we wrote. Let's see, the land surveying we've done, the wetlands delineation we've done, preliminary design for phase 1 is finished, although it hasn't been submitted. And the reason for it is because it lagged a little bit because of the survey, but that's all done. We're at 4 and 5. And then notice of intent was not included. So we're not included.
So we're 4 and
The
5.
permit,
That's good.
well, yeah, but also it included 7A and
It's all good.
7B.
I think you're doing great. I'm just asking that because just to touch on what Ulysses talked about, the advocacy for maintenance is, if it's still correct, because I got this from the state, in your task 4 and 5, there's a long-term operation and maintenance plan.
Yes, that's part of the stormwater report that goes
Right.
with me.
So maybe we can when we get that, we can
Yeah.
use that to do some advocacy towards the city to say, hey, this is the plan that we need. We need more personnel. Because we have so many playgrounds and ball fields and parks already, So just so you know that's already part of this grant is maintenance and operational, long-term operation and maintenance, and it has to be discussed.
It's standard, that's a standard piece of a stormwater.
So when you have that finished, it'd be great if you can share that definitely with all of us, so we can look at it and know what it is, so we can advocate for this type of thing.
Sure.
That's part of the process of making Brockton the place where better begins.
Nice slogan.
That's the city slogan, right?
It used to be.
It used to be.
Yeah.
With the
Using it.
new administration,
It might
the
change.
signature line may have changed.
I just wanted to ask that question about that, yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh, this is,
Any other final comments? We have 11:05.
oh, yeah, very good.
I put a
Wonderful. All
comment
right, so we'll
in the
have one
chat
more
on
fiscal year
how we might
2026 meeting
proceed.
on
Tuesday, June
June
16th.
16th.
All right.
I will
that's
send
it.
out an invitation. Don't
Okay.
worry.
Here or?
It's gonna be here. We didn't,
Okay. I
we
went
had
there
talked
by
about it being
accident.
here and so far this has worked, right?
Yeah, this
Tech
is
work.
fine.
We wanted to make sure everything
Great,
worked. So we'll do it again.
parking, which
Yeah.
is a win.
Yeah.
No, but.
And Supreme Donuts is right down the road. So
Oh, yeah, that's important.
next time. Next time we'll get the good stuff.
Um,
You hear that, Zoom people? Come in
Yeah.
person.
Yes.
Refreshments.
Cape Cod pizza.
Or we'll get pizza maybe. We'll let you know. Yeah. It's been only 3 weeks.
Salads.
It will come up a little fast because it's in 3 weeks, just so we can
Yeah,
hit it
no
2 weeks
kidding.
before the deadline of the.
Has anyone had the protein salad from my daughter's salad place over on Pleasant?
Oh, the
Oh,
farmer's
Pearl?
salad?
Yeah,
I
Pearl.
had like everything.
It's delicious.
It's so expensive.
Yes.
All right,
it is.
thank you. Thank
Oh,
you all
thank you
very
so
much. This
much,
recording
yeah.
will be posted on the Google.
Okay,
Bye.
post it on Google.
Thank
Okay.
you.